Chappie has said, funny how minutes after the shooting they came up with a 600-page paperwork about confiscating firearms. I know. It's quite interesting actually, because there was, that when they did, well, this isn't related to this, but when they do talk about gun control, they often cite Australia. They had one mass shooting, took all the guns away, crime went up, down, you could say it. But then the other side to that is, like most, any and all, really, generally statistics or presenting facts in that way, you alter the context, don't you? You don't talk about the fact that there's been a global reduction in crime overall, which Australia was in line with. And people never talked about the fact that New Zealand has got some of the loosest gun laws in the world, or did anyway, and New Zealand and Australia had a similar reduction in gun crime. So, everyone's got, oh, look what Australia, though, did the trick, didn't they? I mean, that kind of argument's gone out the window now, because they've had a mass shooting, and now they're banning guns as well. It went through, didn't it? 10 days it took them. I don't know, man. I don't know. If any of you know what the Peterloo Massacre is, everyone from this is something that happened in my city, but and I'm gonna edit out certain things to present an argument. I'm gonna do it myself, but people from all over Manchester, Greater Manchester, right up the canals, were asked to come down, and this was like the birth of trade unions, the birth of legitimate suffrage in this country, actually, the birth of the Guardian newspaper, when it had literally the day after the Guardian was born. People from all over the Northwest were told, come to Manchester, we'll protest, we'll have it out, we'll get workers' rights, blah blah blah. There was all the rest of it. They were asked to not bring their weapons. Back then everyone carried blades or whatever, and they were specifically told, do not bring your weapons, you'll be safe. And our government literally murdered them. They rode through them on horses. It's called the Peterloo Massacre. My band Livestock Jihad, we've got an awesome song about it, which they didn't use for the movie, so go fuck yourself, because that's like the best song written about Peterloo Massacre ever. But yeah, the last time we were told to put down our weapons, we were shown very, very clearly that who was in charge. And you know what? We never picked them up again, did we, eh? We let the government hand them to us in World Wars 1 and 2, but after the Peterloo Massacre, the British government made it very fucking clear that you are not to be armed. And you know what? It concerns me, that. It really does concern me. Look at this shit in France right now. Look at the videos of the police and the army and that just storming the protesters and fucking them up. And I'm not saying that some of the protesters are genuinely immoral, evil people who just want to burn the world down. They're taking advantage of the situation, but there is an argument for being armed, man. Of course there is. Of course there is. Look what happened. We got fucked over. They murdered and slaughtered the poor people of Manchester, and I mean poor in the sense of just basic serfs, slaves. They had nothing. They didn't own themselves in any manner whatsoever, and they were murdered. And you know what we did? We just took it like little bitches. We started the Guardian, and we got all these little victories, but ultimately there was a core thing removed there. And I see it all the time. Like, British people, we're sort of weakened forever at that point, and we always do it. You always get it down the pub when Paris is burning and everyone's going nuts. There's always the same conversation that happens, like, oh, they know how to protest over there, don't they? And we haven't quite got that thing here. We don't quite cross that line and really have the self-respect enough to properly stand up for it. And I'm not talking about these middle-class cunts in London right now all gluing themselves to the floor and shit. I'm talking about people genuinely having the self-respect enough to stand up and say, I own me. I own my time. I own my own self. And that's the end of it. And we don't have that there. And it all goes back to fucking arming yourself as well. We're all hammering on about not being able to carry knives at the moment. And I'm thinking, if I was a 14-year-old boy living in a really rough area right now and there was gangs everywhere, stabbing people, robbing people, You might not necessarily be a bad person, but I don't necessarily hold it against that young lad for carrying a knife. I don't. Because what the fuck are you supposed to do? And I'm not advocating for carrying knives here, but we can't have it both ways. If we are going to give up our arms, the country needs to be safe. There's no police, there's no order right now. It's all just going fucking mental. They're all going on about putting more officers on the streets right now, but that's not what they're doing. They're making the existing officers work overtime. They're making the existing officers give up their leave. They're not putting more on the streets. And I just think you can't have it both ways. If you're going to walk outside your own house and get fucked over, and then you've got, some politician browbeating about, well, we need to, if you get caught with a knife, it's prison. And it's like, well, you're ruining someone's life there over the basic right to self-defense. And I'm not defending the gangs that are going around with knives and killing people. I'm not defending them. But I'm saying, why, you can't only... There's this weird thing of, like, where do we draw the line? Dunk Naylor said, in an unarmed populace, only the criminals will have guns. Well, that's the argument, isn't it? And there is an argument. The thing is, though, man, I'm happy for knife crime. I'm happy for it to be banned. If you've got a knife on you without a fucking good reason, yeah. But we have to live in a society that's safe for that to happen. And right now, we don't. We should have... If we're going to ban guns, then we should have open carrier knives. We should have it. At this point, until they sort fucking things out. Well, I'm out with my family at the moment. If I'm out with my family and someone decides to rob me, I've got zero way of effectively defending myself. Even mace is like, they even on the police websites they say no, you're not allowed to use mace. It's like literally this is their advice: a rape alarm. That's their advice. That is the legal limit that you're safe. And at the moment, there is something there, man. I'm not allowed to defend myself. But the guy that doesn't give a fuck about going to prison anyway is fine carrying a knife. He don't give a shit. It's creepy, man. Creepy and not good. You need to arm yourself with harsh words to thrash the gang members. Here's the thing, right? I pay a bit more. I live in a little place, but I pay a bit more to live in a safe area. It's mostly just students, families around here, man. And, they're a bit noisy, they're a bit leery, walking around drunk. But it's safe. I don't give a fuck, man. Even the homeless people are chill as anything. And luckily, I'm in a position where I can make the choice to pay a bit more money and live in a safe area. I mean, sure, I've not got as big a place as I might have. God, I was looking at some of the prices the other day. I could live in a mansion for what I'm paying here. Which means I feel safe going out. But not everyone's got that, man. Again, it's this thing, isn't it? It's like what we were saying earlier about Tommy Robinson. How many of these frustrated people who are so disconnected from what they're talking about on Question Time, from what David Lammy's going on about and all that. How many of those disconnected people who are too scared to go out their own front door are going to put that cross next to Tommy Robinson and just say, fuck you? Just like they did with Brexit, just like they did with Trump, just like they're doing all over Europe right now. How many people are going to do that, man? And I don't know. There needs to be a basic level there. We don't just need more police. We need good police. And the problem is they're getting rid of the older ones that are there to train the newer ones. I've had a lot of involvement with the police recently. It was this horrible thing that I can't really go into because I don't want to jeopardise her safety and stuff like that. But I made a point of working with the police. They didn't even think to knock on my door and ask me about it. There was a major incident here. There was a long-running thing. It was really horrific. Kids were involved. They didn't even think to knock on my door. And I'm thinking, one of the older ones would have done that. Or if they had more time, they would have done that. I had to go out there and drag them in here. I was in my onesie, giving a full statement. Because I used to work in that industry, so I know how the statements work. I know how to do it. But I'm sat there in my onesie. Because I went out and I said, you need to come in here. And then I came in to get changed. They knocked on my door faster than I thought. So I literally opened the door in my underwear. And I was like, oh, just put it back on again. Happy Dog said, we have very little rights of self-defense in the UK. You will be arrested if you're defending your property now. If someone is trying to wreck your car and you physically stop them, you're lifted. Well, yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. Here's the thing, right? There's a lot of good police out there who, if you went and punched someone that was wrecking your car or went and got them, there's a lot of good police out there who legally should do you, but they'll give you a wink, and say, I mean, I've heard them say, "Oh, he's probably going to trip on the way to the cells," kind of thing, especially if women are involved. But at the moment, our laws mean that you're working off the discretion of the officer that sees you. And my worry is for all of that like common law thing and common decency that we have, and we do have that. The other side is there's that thing where they can just fuck you whenever they want. You know, section 127 of the Online Communications Act is so vague that I could probably get done just for this podcast. Anyone could get done for anything because you can intentionally remove the context for a start, which is terrifying, and then there doesn't even have to be a victim. Insanity, madness, pure fucking madness. Thanks for your comments though, Happy Dog. But yeah, let's get back to this.